Hello! We are here on the 1-year anniversary of the Super Mario Bros. Movie, and we're gonna look back to see how we still feel about this. Do we like this movie? Do we agree with our review scores? Just a little retrospective on the Mario movie.
Yeah, it's been about a year, and it feels like a lot has happened. But looking back at last year, that was such an exciting time when this movie was coming out.
I know.
We got invited to the premiere. We got really wrapped up in every trailer that they released. So I do think it's good to ask ourselves, did we get swept up in that moment
Was it
of the release
rose-colored glasses?
and the excitement, and a year later to sort of reassess our feelings on this movie?
Yeah, it's true. Now I have a question for you.
Oh.
Have you watched the movie again after the first maybe couple? You watched it, we watched it like couple of times.
I've seen this movie a number of times.
Yeah.
And that's something that's interesting about this movie is it's everywhere.
Right.
So there was the theatrical release. I think I saw it 3 times in theaters.
I did too.
Now it's on Netflix.
Yep.
You can just watch it whenever.
Yep.
I have the Blu-ray.
Yep.
It's on airplanes. It's one of those movies that is inescapable.
Right.
Anywhere you look. So I think anybody who has wanted to see this movie over the past year has had a lot of chances.
Yes, and you and I obviously watched it a lot
right.
when it first came out. Like within the span of the first, opening weekend, you and I did see that movie like multiple times. Yeah. And then I recently watched it, like within the last 2 weeks.
Sure.
I watched it.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I have watched this movie quite a lot.
I think so too.
Yeah, which is really interesting. We reviewed this movie actually in a rare thing that
one of our few reviews that we do. Yes.
Yeah. So we did give this movie a score out of 10. We did check back right before we hit record on the camera here to see what our original review scores were. Now I gave it a 9.5 out of 10, and you?
I gave it a 9.
Okay.
So both
super high.
Very positive reviews from both of us. Really loved it in the moment. But it's time to ask ourselves, how do we feel about it today, a year later?
I still feel pretty good about it, honestly. And again, I watched it like 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
I would still say that this movie is maybe like either maintained my original review score. If anything, because you've seen it so many times, a lot of the joy of this movie was discovering those Easter eggs and those hidden secrets and all those visual, really cool visual things that they put in for, longtime Nintendo fans. That was a huge part of my first viewing experiences, picking those out. So I would say maybe that's the only thing that has lost its luster, because I know now, since I've seen it so many times, where everything is and where all the jokes are and what all the little things are. So if that would be something to take it down a little bit, I would say maybe mine goes down to a 9, because now I don't have those surprises anymore. But otherwise, still holds up.
Yeah, I still have really positive feelings about it as well. And we mentioned all the different ways that you can watch the movie. It's hard for me to say how many times I've seen it, because sometimes it's been partial, on a flight or having it on in the background. And I think that's been like a new level of appreciation that I have for it. Is something, you have all the details down, but it becomes kind of more of a mood piece in the background, like if I'm doing work or something else. I know you like to consume. You like to consume a lot of things that way. I honestly don't. I like to give things my full attention, but I've seen this movie so many times that it does become just like a very positive, joyous thing to have in the background when I'm doing something else, and that doesn't diminish my enjoyment of actually sitting down and watching the movie. I could still do that and get a lot out of it and really enjoy it. But I do think there's something special about it having this new role as it's moving beyond the billion-dollar blockbuster phase into something that everybody has seen a million times and is appreciating in another way. Netflix is really the provider that is known for background viewing. Making stuff that is so kind of lukewarm and down the middle that it's best viewed that way. I wonder if they knew, or they analyzed this movie somehow, of people really, people love this movie when it came out, but it's going to have this second life as this background viewing kind of thing. I really wonder about that.
I do. I think that they have done that because it has all the check boxes of great background viewing. It has a lot of audio cues, jokes, and stuff like that makes it easy for you to know where you are in the movie without having to look up at the movie if you're doing something else. I mean, the plot is so inconsequential that you don't need to follow along to know what's going on.
Yeah.
It has like a lot of, it's very lighthearted. It's also like all ages. So if you have it on the background and other people in your family are walking by or whatever, you don't need to worry about, it being maybe not for kids or something like that. So you could just have it on. So they absolutely have analyzed this. And I think that this is the really fun second life of this movie, because that's what I do with this movie all the time.
Right.
Is I watch it in the background.
So you mentioned, we've talked about how ubiquitous this movie is. It's everywhere. There's so much merch for it. We got some of the merch here on the couch. Like, boop, boop. Even now, if I go to Target and go through the aisles, like I still see so much Mario movie merch. Like, did you ever hit a point where you got like, I've heard enough about this movie, or I've seen enough, I need a break? Or do you know anybody who is like that? Because that's how these things usually work, is like, we're excited, we love this, and then we hate it.
Yeah, because it's like too overexposed.
Oversaturated, overexposed.
I don't think I have heard of anyone that said like, I hate it now because it's overexposed.
Right.
I think, the merch side of it, maybe they went a little hard on that. Obviously, they wanted to sell as much as possible and capitalize on this fervor of this movie. They went a little hard on the merch. I don't know if that merch is ever going to get sold now.
Well, that merch, when I see it now, it's on deep discount.
I was going to say, it's probably on
at
deep
Target.
discount.
But yeah, I agree. Like, I never hit a point where I was like, this is enough of this, I'm good.
Yeah.
And even talking to other people, like I put myself as a pretty top tier Mario fan.
Yeah.
Like, more casual. I don't really hear them saying like, oh, I'm so tired of hearing about this.
Yeah, the stupid Mario movie is so overplayed or something.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that speaks to how well they created a truly appealing movie for everyone. Like, there are none of the so-called rejectors necessarily who are just like, I'm out here being a naysayer. This is my identity, of a naysayer for the Mario movie.
And it's interesting to see that, even in this kind of environment that we often find ourselves in, where people like to be, contrarian on the internet and say things to like get a rise out of people. I haven't really seen a lot of that for this movie.
I think at worst you see people saying like, it's fine, or
it's for kids.
I wish maybe it had this or this. And it's funny because when this movie was coming out, like, this was a big point of concerns. The reviews were not good.
Right.
For this movie. Maybe those are official movie critics. Maybe those are the people that are who are official naysayers, because they were very harsh on the movie, and I think gave a lot of people some appropriate worry of, is this bad? Did they miss the mark? But I think maybe, I don't know, maybe they were just looking at this movie through a different lens of like the cinema or the film.
The arts.
Right.
Thespian.
Right, whereas, we had a different set of expectations.
And I think so did probably the majority of the viewing audience.
Right, as lovers of video games and people who know Mario a different way.
Yeah.
And I also often go back to my feelings when we knew there would be a Mario movie, but before we really knew much about it or had seen anything about it. I was terrified.
Yeah.
Because
it could have ruined something.
If a modern Mario movie was bad, that would have really crushed me, and that would have really hurt a lot. And I remember the great relief that I felt when they put out that first poster.
That poster was...
And I thought, my goodness, all right, they've nailed this, we're in good hands, and I really had a sigh of relief then, and I felt very confident all the way through.
Yeah, I agree. I think that we definitely had moments where there was a slight twinge of terror that this was going to be bad, like definitely not knowing much about the movie before we saw the first visuals was a moment of fear. Hearing about the voice actors was a moment of fear.
Yeah.
And then once it all, came out and came together, I think, it was a huge sigh of relief coupled with a lot of joy that they didn't mess it up. And in fact, it was quite good,
right.
So I think that relief and sort of those feelings that I have, they still exist now. Like when I watch the movie now, I think to myself a lot. I'm like, oh man, thank goodness that, it's this good. Or thank goodness Chris Pratt's voice wasn't distracting to me. You know,
Sure.
like I think about these things a lot when I watch it, and I'm like, yeah, it could have gone in a different way altogether, but it didn't, and I'm grateful for that.
Yeah. With the passing of time, with this year, is there anything when you look at this movie, either you can appreciate it more than you did again in the moment when it first came out, or you just look at it a little bit differently because you've had that distance of a year?
Yeah, I think that the thing that I continue to appreciate is just how it captures this, like, the lightheartedness of a Mario universe. Like, we've grown up in the Mushroom Kingdom as kids, you know, and we've been part of this world for so long. There is a certain vibe that the games really kind of put forward, and the movie does a really good job of capturing it. I didn't really realize that in the moment because I was so busy like laughing at all the jokes and looking for Easter eggs. But that overarching sort of feeling that you get when you watch the movie is so similar from when you are playing a Mario game. Like, we recently played Wonder last year, and I just felt so many similarities between the joy that I had playing Mario Wonder to the joy that I had watching this movie. So I really appreciate that, like the way that Mr. Miyamoto was able to translate that same feeling from a different art form to a movie art form is like pretty incredible, honestly.
That continuity of the man who created Mario and this world and everything about it. It's like you can tell that he had his fingerprints all over this, and again that you were in good hands.
Yeah.
Related to that, with the past year, we've gotten news about the Zelda movie, and there's been a lot of analyzing of the creative team behind that, and wondering, do we feel as confident with that as we do with the Mario movie? So again, over the past year, I really appreciate now this kind of creative relationship that Mr. Miyamoto has with Chris Meledandri, who's the head of Illumination.
Yeah.
And it's like they've become special friends. They found somebody, they're both older gentlemen, late in their lives, they found a very special friend that they can creatively see eye to eye with.
That's sweet.
And I really feel like there was this great meeting of the minds creatively with this project where they could both freely share ideas, help shape the other person's ideas, because we have one person who's an expert, one of the best ever, maybe the best ever at making video games, and we have somebody who is a true expert at making animated movies. And they just saw eye to eye and were able to create this thing that is truly a reflection of the both of them.
Yeah.
And I think when we think about the Zelda movie, that's where we start to get a little bit nervous.
Right.
Of, is he going to have that same kind of creative peer on the filmmaking side to help bring that vision to a reality? I just don't know, but it makes me appreciate this relationship all the more.
It seems to fit so perfectly, and whatever, happened in the universe to bring these two people together to do something like this is like a very rare thing, and it definitely is something that is to be appreciated. One thing that I will say is a little bit of a nitpick now that I've watched the movie so many times, a year later, is I do see what people are saying now. I remember in the very beginning of this, people were saying like, oh, the soundtrack is a little lacking.
Oh.
Like, I feel like, Mario has such great orchestral scores, in the games.
Yeah.
The soundtrack is a little generic. And I was like, I don't really think that's true. But now that I watch this movie in the background a lot, and I'm not actually looking at the visuals, I kind of agree with that now.
Okay.
I feel like that's the only thing where I'm like, oh yeah, they could have done a lot more with the soundtrack to make it feel...
So you loved the use of licensed music.
I do like the use
Do you still feel that way?
I still love it.
Okay.
I still love that scene with the Aha song.
All right.
I still like the 80s, white blazer, con, I still like all of that.
Okay.
So I still like it.
Yeah, I've listened to the full soundtrack.
Yeah.
Like it's on, music services.
Right.
And there are parts of it that I like, but I agree with you that there's parts of it that do feel a bit just like this is a movie score.
Like a movie score, yeah.
So yeah, I do hope, you've got this rich history of music. Koji Kondo himself is very involved.
Get going.
Let's use a little bit more of that.
Right.
I definitely feel that way. So yeah, you kind of like brought up, the potential of what could be in the sequel, which has now been announced.
I know.
Are you feeling confident, again, a year out from this first movie, in their ability to like strike gold again with a sequel?
It's always harder with a sequel, as
That's
they
true.
say, because you lose your element of surprise. But I do have full confidence in the Miyamoto-Meledandri partnership. As you were saying, is so special that these two people can have like this great sort of meeting of the minds. And I think that that is truly the foundation of what makes this work. And if those two can stick together, you know, and just do that again for the next one, I'm sure it's going to be as good. I'm sure there are also things that they wanted to try to do that they weren't able to put into this first movie, because this one is just really like establishing a baseline kind of thing. So I hope that they give themselves a bit more, you know, they can relax a little bit now that the first one's out there and it did so well and, you know, made them so much money. Maybe they can relax a little bit and let them just like let their creative juices flow a little bit more even, and like push it a little bit. There's so many other directions they can take the story in, so hopefully that will become more of a focus. But yeah, I'm pretty confident.
Yeah, I'm feeling good too. You know, a lot of the really hard work is done.
Yeah.
You know, creating
World building,
the look of
yeah,
the movie.
style,
They've got that really set. The kind of tone of the movie, they've got that set. They've cast all of the actors in these main roles.
Yep.
You don't need to do that again. So it really does come down to, like, can we make a great story?
Yeah.
And can we still surprise people with what we're going to do in another movie? And I think they absolutely can. You know, Mario games are not known for their story, but I think there's a lot of interesting settings and characters,
Characters
and
for
other
sure.
little things from the games that they can continue to introduce to keep it fresh.
Yeah.
Some people criticize the first movie of like it doesn't have much plot. I'm not sure a Mario movie needs a ton of plot, but again, I think there's a lot more there in the Mario games for them to pull from to create a lot of really fun stories and keep it really fresh and entertaining for people.
They have so many other relationships too within all the Mushroom Kingdom characters to explore.
Yeah.
I mean, just give us Koopalings and be A+, you know, really.
Yeah. So it makes me really happy to be here a year later and say I still love the Mario movie and feel great about what's to come for Mario movies. It's an incredible place for me to be as a lifelong Mario fan, but I'm very happy with it.
Yeah. Hope you guys are also feeling the same way about the Mario movie a year later. Let us know in the comments if you have rewatched this movie recently, or maybe you have this as one of your background movie rotations. We love to hear what you guys are thinking, how you're feeling about the Mario movie a year later, and your hopes and dreams for the next Mario movie. Yeah?
Yeah.
All right, we'll talk to you guys later.
Bye.
Bye.